it felt certainly complex because it is puppets. I mean, I've kind of said this before, and I'll say it again. Puppets are not inherently sexy.
Hi, team. Welcome to Director's Notes.
Hey, thank you for having us.
No,
Yeah.
absolute pleasure. I mean, first of all, huge congratulations on not only all the awards you've picked up, but this wonderful weekend that you've just had.
It's been quite a weekend, hasn't it, guys?
Yeah, it really has. Yeah, kind of kicked off with the Manchester Animation Festival. We spent like 3 years making the film in Manchester, and that festival's kind of been special to us for a while. So that was, a really great one. And then I was in Norwich at the awards on Saturday, which was also amazing. And then Dean and Adam from Sound and Music were at Holly Shorts last night. I also went to a screening at Holly Shorts on Saturday, which was really amazing, and did the Q&A there. And yeah, briefly met some amazing people before going to Norwich, and yeah, it's been absolutely amazing.
It's been fun because we're like at the same festivals, but one goes to the screening, one goes to the award. So I went to our Norwich screening, but Ben picked up the award. And Ben went to our Holly Shorts London screening, and I picked up the award. So it's nice because they get to meet different members of the team as well. But it means, we can be in multiple places at once as a team. So that's been really fun.
Absolutely. I mean, look, I know who you guys are. I've done lots of research, but if you guys just want to introduce yourselves and your role on sort of Two Black Boys in Paradise. I know it was incredibly collaborative, but just so, our viewers can get a little taste.
Okay, the order that might make sense is me, Ben, and Baz. Okay, so my name's Dean Atta. I wrote the poem that Two Black Boys in Paradise is adapted from. And Ben saw me reading that poem and approached me about doing so.
Yep, so I'm Ben Jackson. I'm the producer and co-screenwriter on Two Black Boys in Paradise. I was a fan of Dean's work. The Black Flamingo is one of my all-time favourite books. It's a coming-of-age verse novel. And so when I saw Dean was going to be doing a poetry event in Berlin when I was living at the time, I went along and heard him read Two Black Boys in Paradise, and reached out afterwards, and it was the start of a beautiful collaboration. And I showed it to Baz, and Baz was kind of really enthusiastic about it as well. And so I'll over to you, Baz.
Yeah, I'm Baz Sells. I'm the director, co-writer, and co-DOP of Two Black Boys in Paradise. And the guys have said the rest, so I'll leave it.
There we go. That's it. We've said it all. It's all done. I think that, there is so much I want to dig into and so much I could talk about this film. But for me, like, you have built an astonishing world, multiple worlds. So that is something, I'd love to start with, because stop motion, I love it. I think it's brilliant, and sort of what you're able to play around with, animation, with puppets, with everything. So I guess my first question, and I'm going to leave you guys up to who answers, who wants to discuss things, but was about bringing that sort of lush world to a visual life.
Who wants to take
the director?
Okay,
Come on, Baz.
Let's go for it. When Ben first introduced me to Dean's poem, we've been making stop motion for years, so we often view kind of potential projects through that lens. But I feel like when I read Dean's poem, and I imagine the same for Ben as well, there was such a kind of emotional variance to it. There was a lot of honesty, vulnerability. It was also bold, and for me, kind of moved through different emotional spaces quite quickly, which for us as animation filmmakers we love, because we're able to kind of go through those spaces that you might not necessarily be able to do with live action. I feel like with stop motion animation, there's a slight separation in terms of, even if we're representing the human form, it's somewhat removed from ourselves. So I feel like we can go to different places in terms of maybe pushing themes and imagery that might be otherwise hard to digest. I think has a slightly disarming quality. So bringing the world to life was very much for me as a director about striking a balance between the kind of subtlety and nuance of the moments that the boys encounter, which is particularly kind of clear in the first half of the film. A lot of the performance is quite stripped back, whereas traditionally, animation can often be quite bold and over the top, or exaggerated. But when we get to Paradise in the second half of the film, which is a total celebration of, the boys, everything they represent, everything becomes bolder, the camera movement, the acting all becomes more dynamic. And that was all part of kind of speaking to the struggles that these boys were going to from the subtlety point of view. That world, I felt like it didn't need to be exaggerated. These moments that the boys encountering, whether or not it's their relationship with themselves or their relationship with the kind of world around them, I felt like that holds so much power in itself. We already identify those moments. We already know what they mean. So we simply, it was almost in a documentary sense, I guess. It's just showing, and capturing that nuance. And then when we move into the world of Paradise, where everything becomes more vibrant and dynamic, for me, that was somewhat about celebrating the boys' progress, but it's also to say that essentially what the boys have gone through it's so deep rooted, some of this kind of I guess self-doubt, also the kind of rejection that they get from society. It's all very deep rooted. So the progress they make, actually, if for example as a straight couple, holding hands or embracing each other in public, it might be seen to be only a small progression really, but for these boys it's such a big thing. Therefore the result of that needs to feel big as well, which is to say that even like the small victories can feel, overwhelming and beautiful. And that was kind of the balance between the two worlds that I think we've tried to capture.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I mean, Dean, for you, it must have just been a fascinating process. Because one of my favorite things, I'm a big reader. And when I read, I've always got who I imagine, what they look like, what the world is.
Yeah.
So as a writer, I can only imagine your sort of feelings over that, but to watch it being brought to life.
Yeah, as a writer, I love to leave space for readers to have that going on in their imagination. So I won't, overly describe places or people. I'll leave it for you to kind of like color that in. So it was really wonderful once the team started working on this to see the concept art and to see how they imagined how the boys would look and how they imagined the world that the boys would inhabit. And and I really loved, big and small things, big things like, the rainbow that they fly down when they're returning to Paradise. And also in Paradise, the sky is inspired by the trans flag as well. So you see those colors. So, it's really, like nailing its colors to the flagpole, if you see what I mean. It's really being bold in that kind of representation for the whole LGBTQ plus community. And then there's also small things like we've got a bookstall in the market store where there's books by other queer writers that we wanted to kind of like showcase and celebrate. The details of the boys' clothing, like their hairstyles. The hair was so beautiful and important. So one of the boys has an afro and the other has dreadlocks. And I really loved the care that went into making those look so realistic. And the way they're animated, like when they're underwater and the locks are flowing in the water. It took my breath away to see those moments. And they were all envisaged from the start. So in the storyboarding and the kind of animatic, we knew those moments would happen, but to see them actually done with the puppets and see how that was achieved, the painstaking attention to detail that requires, I was just so impressed with every member of the team that put their hands on this project, because it's full of, physical contact with these puppets and making the all the sets and all the props on the sets. It's just like so many people put love and care and attention into it, and that was present from the beginning, from the storyboards and the concept art. You mentioned being a reader. I'll try and get you a copy of my book. We've used concept art from Two Black Boys in Paradise for the front cover of my book, because I just thought it's so beautiful. We must use this. And that's one of the kind of standout moments in the film as well, when the boys plunge into the water and kiss underwater. I'm just like, I want that moment in my life. Like,
everyone does. That's like a proper sort of like, that's a romance. That's a love story for the ages.
Yeah, incredible. So yes, as a writer, like I couldn't have imagined how it was going to be visualized, and that's why we needed such an incredible team to make that come to life, because none of us could have done this on our own, and it's just been so incredible to see how much amazing creativity brought this to life.
Yeah. And Ben, for you, obviously hearing the piece first and sort of finding it, what were you most impressed by with it being translated to film and being brought to, sort of your eyes?
I don't know. I found like when I first heard the poem, I mean, I was already blown away and went home and literally couldn't stop thinking about it. I think, I was on sort of my own journey of self-acceptance, and the poem really spoke to that. But yeah, I think, there's certain scenes that even when we were putting them together, we had like some scenes finished, but some scenes just still animatic and post not finished. But even at that stage, like when I'd watch a sequence, it literally brought me to tears. And especially like the sex scene, like I just find so beautiful. And like I'm kind of quite a romantic person, but growing up, and I knew quite early I was gay, although I didn't come out until I was 30. And I kind of didn't think that romance was available to me. And then, met my boyfriend and like realized that wasn't the case. But yeah, when watching that scene, it made me really emotional, and kind of, it just felt like a healing for my like inner teenager. And there's been so many moments like that. And actually just watching like at the Norwich Awards, they played like a 30-second clip, and it was that sort of end of coming down the rainbow and plunging underwater, and like just seeing that like was making me emotional again. And I've seen this film hundreds and hundreds of times now, like seen every shot. Like we would watch every shot on the cinema, like for VFX sign off, and so I've seen like everything so many times, but it still has the power to make me feel emotion, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, that is amazing. And I think, it's testament, films have to stand the test of time as well. They have to be able to be watched over and over again, and for new things to come out. And I'm very glad you brought up the sex, because that was one thing I wanted to focus on. I mean, seeing sex done that way, animation with puppets, I loved it. I love every moment of it. Baz, was that quite an intimidating part of it all?
It felt certainly complex, because it is puppets. I mean, I've kind of said this before, and I'll say it again. Puppets are not inherently sexy. I think for us, it was part of what we were trying to do, was to realize our kind of limitations, what we could do with the puppets, the emotional spaces that we could kind of go to with them. We lean into kind of things like, we show communication between the boys, which we keep private, which kind of elevates that intimacy. The scene on the whole has little hints and slight kind of shots, visuals that they kind of quickly come and go, and it's a bit of a flowing journey. So I think we were trying to strike a balance which felt authentic. We didn't want to censor ourselves, but equally I think overexposure of puppets having sex might have been a bit too, I don't think it would have captured the essence of what we were trying to do. The quote literally on set all the time was, "We can't do Team America," which is an extreme example, but you realize that with the kind of animated form, you have to somewhat lean into surrealism as well. And I feel like what the sex scene tries to do is capture not just the physical aspect of it, but also the kind of emotional aspect of it for the boys as well. It's almost otherworldly. They're in this space. The sides of the boat have come away, which is obviously it's symbolic in terms of their barriers are broken down. So it's very much like, how can it feel to be in this small space with someone and being intimate, where you're almost completely losing track of what's around you, to the point that it becomes infinite. And I think that's what the sex scene was about. But certainly it was tricky, and I think it was the last thing we shot, and we had storyboarded it to a degree, but even then we'd realized that some things that we'd storyboarded were just not going to work visually. So it was very much about getting the puppets in front of camera, and then some of it was just purely aesthetic, how, you know, what shots are kind of going to work, but equally, you know, in terms of action, what are we going to show, what are we not going to show, and striking that balance between, yeah, the kind of intimacy, but also to leave a little bit to the imagination as well.
Yeah, because it's not an immediate one. And I mean, I'm sure you know, I'm always talking about intimacy coordinators and what they do on set and how they're able to make sex scenes look so real, which for a lot of years we all know they weren't. And I found it astounding. You managed to achieve a very authentic, realistic, intimate sex scene with puppets, which, yeah, I think is just a real achievement. In terms of the world and everything.
And there was lots of talk about, you know, how we would achieve it. And I think having really classic imagery that Ben sourced, like that, to kind of like show what queer intimacy has looked like over various art forms over the ages. I think that was really nice to have those inspirations, but also some of the like still images that we had, as Baz was saying, like once you're thinking about how they're going to move from those poses, actually they work still, but how do they move? And I think, you know, what it was all building to was that wonderful climax that we see with the peacock. And I think that brings so many people joy. At every screening we get gasps and laughter and just this kind of like people just feel like that they've had that moment as well. And I just think that is our kind of, I think universally, like everyone kind of remembers that moment when they see the film and they go away feeling like, yeah, that was really entertaining, because the film has some really serious moments. And I think that gives it so much levity to see the sex and then that beautiful celebration of the boys together in the climax. And I think we really enjoy that moment, and we enjoy the audience enjoying that moment when we get to be at screenings as well.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I've only ever watched it. Thinking I've seen it quite a few times, but I've never actually seen it with an audience, and that's always such a poignant moment when you can feel them reacting to it.
Yeah, and audience reactions have been so beautiful, like throughout, and responses afterwards as well. People feeling really seen by the film, or challenged in a really good way by the film, like, you know, reflecting on certain aspects of what we put across. And yeah, like one of my favorite responses was from a trans non-binary person who said, you know, I saw the title of the film, I was intrigued to come along to see it, but because it was two black boys in paradise, I thought I'd only be partially represented in this. And then when at the end you said maybe they won't have to be boys or girls, I felt like I was allowed into paradise and you saw me, and that just meant the world to me. So I think those kind of audience reactions when we actually get to hear from people, it's just so special.
Yeah, amazing. And for Ben as well, for you as a producer, I think it's fascinating, and I love that you touched on how inclusive the film is. That must be such a fascinating feeling, and sort of part of being able to work on it and promote it is this massive overall umbrella embracing that it has of people and people have of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's yeah, like, I mean, the whole process of making the film, you know, there's so many people involved as well. I think we have like 100 different credits, and like some of those people dedicated literal years of their life to the film, because people just really resonated with it, enjoyed working on it. And I think for us all, you know, like obviously Dean and Baz and I and our creative executive at the BFI, Aoife Hayes, like we had so many in-depth conversations about everything, but you know, also with all, you know, other crew, DOPs, animators, the conversations that we all had, and it was like lots of different people from lots of different backgrounds, and also the identities represented on screen were well represented, sort of behind the scenes as well. So like some of the conversations we had, that was like one of the like really valuable parts of making the film, was like listening to each other and being able to like talk about our experiences. So yeah, it's been amazing. And now like seeing it out there in the world, and yeah, lots of different people coming up after and just saying like how amazing they found it and how seen they felt. And yeah, like Dean said as well, also, you know, we had sort of a straight white middle-aged man say after one of our screenings that it made him think about stuff in a different way. And so also to get that sort of feedback is really amazing. And yeah, it's just been incredible. Like for me as well, like it's one of the reasons I wanted to make a queer film was because of my own struggles with self-acceptance. And making the film has been for me like the ultimate journey of self-acceptance. And now going to the festivals and talking about the film and talking about my sexuality, our world premiere was at Anima in Brussels, and it was an 800-seat sold-out theatre, and it was queer night, and there was a drag queen host, and they had drag acts between the films, and the three of us went up on stage and did this Q&A in front of all these people, and I was like, wow, I just never would have done this like 5-10 years ago. So yeah, for me, it's kind of given me so much in that respect.
Yeah.
And that queer night, that world premiere was just so special because all three of us were there with our partners as well. And so, you know, we were holding hands with our partners watching this film we'd spent, you know, 5 years making. It's so incredible that a 9-minute film took 5 years to make. And so our partners have been on the journey with us, and our family and friends have been rooting for us and supporting us, you know, emotionally, financially along the way. So it's just such a big community that's built around this film. And, you know, all the kind of crew and cast, like it's been so many incredible conversations and moments. I think one of my favorite moments was when we were in Abbey Road Studios recording the narration with Jordan Stevens, and he kind of stopped the recording to have a little kind of like sit down and chat with us all about what masculinity meant to us, because there's a line, masculinity has not been required of them, and he kind of made us go around the circle of everyone that was there and say what masculinity meant to us, which I thought was really fun and very Jordan Stevens. But yeah, and I know he must have gone home and told his girlfriend Jade, because she shared the trailer on her Instagram, and we've had other fab people support the film and show love. Ian McKellen gave us some money towards the film. Joanna Lumley said something amazing about the film. Billy Porter, Amari Douglas. So it's just like keeps reaching more and more people, and people that see it, you know, wanna help. You know, I shared it with my friend Simon Amstel, and he's like, can I host a Q&A for you if you do another screening? And it's just like the love and generosity that people show this film because they see its importance. Like, yeah, just last night at Holly Short's London, someone there was like, you know, when I saw your film, it made me think of all my Black queer friends in my generation. This person was about 50 or 60, and she said, you know, I have so many friends that would go to the club, have a great time, but as soon as they left the club, you know, their sexuality went back in the closet, you know, and, you know, they wouldn't acknowledge other queer people on the street, and, you know, even if they were dancing with them the night before. And so we really wanted to kind of like show that we can be, you know, unashamedly and proudly queer and hold our partner's hand in public and really celebrate queerness in that way. You know, I myself, you know, have been physically attacked holding a partner's hand in London, you know, and beaten and had to, you know, run for my life, me and my partner. Like, it was a really terrifying experience. So to see what we do in this film, where the boys hold each other's hands and kind of like, and then kiss, you know, and really claim their space, and then, you know, return to paradise, because that paradise space is both, you know, very real in the film, but it's also this emotional space you can inhabit with your partner when you have that safety between the two of you, and that understanding and acceptance of yourself and your loved ones. So yeah, it's been so expansive, this experience, like the people we've connected to, the way we've digged into ourselves and gotten to know one another. It's just been such a beautiful experience.
Yeah. Going back to the time, and obviously films take time, and, you know, this one had a long journey. Baz, I'd love to know for you as a director, especially directing something that's got so much emotion and it really swells, how do you keep that momentum and sort of keep the power in everything you're shooting?
Do you mean like in a practical sense, kind of
Yeah.
hold of it throughout such a long period of time?
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to the planning. I think we were quite, well, actually very meticulous when it came to storyboarding and animatic, and everything from pacing to emotion is very well considered at those points. And I think, yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that we were absolutely exhausted by the time we finished making this, and it does become incredibly difficult to um, stay connected to your intent, not in terms of we want to make the best film possible, but kind of staying connected to those original intentions, original creative decisions that were made with a lot of kind of thought. Obviously, when you're on a film set, any film set, whether it's stop motion or live action, if you're tired, you can easily make a poor decision just on account of just either overlooking something or just wanting to find a kind of simpler solution. And sometimes for us, that's part of it. You have to be open to it. You have to be open to new ideas, and we were constantly receptive to how the emotion on screen would play out. I mean, in terms of music, there were such in-depth conversations about striking the balance between intimacy, because ultimately it's quite a small story really about two people, but equally the emotion and the kind of journey that they go on feels huge to them. So, which is why we have this balance between kind of subtlety and big moments. But in terms of the intention, it definitely was a case of trusting our blueprint, staying kind of open to changes, which I think we all are. Like myself as a director, I don't really care where the idea comes from. Best idea wins, and if it works for the narrative, like that's, there's no ego involved. I'm absolutely fine if, I come up with an idea and, it's no one's feeling it. And I mean, even then, sometimes you have to steam forward, because if your instinct tells you this is right, you go for it. But often it's listening to the people around you. So I think it was a real collaborative effort. I think between myself, Ben, Dean, and Aoife at the BFI, we really worked hard on the creative. And then, yeah, I think part of it is just staying in touch with that, leaning on one another as well, because obviously, we've all got different energy levels at different times, and if I'm kind of needing something that Ben can kind of help with, then he can swoop in, and vice versa. Same with Dean. But yeah, I've had someone ask that question recently. It is quite interesting, because there's part of me actually, despite the answer I just give, I just don't know. I just cared and loved this film so much. When I look back at it and I think how tricky it was to make, I cannot fathom how we got to where we got to. But yeah, I think that's all part of the magic of what we tried to do as well. We believed in what we were doing. We believe in these characters so much that you have that drive just to see it through, and for me, to hear Ben and Dean's stories throughout the kind of creative meetings and some of the things they had to go through, also their joys and celebrations. It's just like, okay, we're almost militant about how much love and affection we put into it, because we totally believe in this story, in the boys, in Ben and Dean, and everyone involved. So yeah, I think I imagine there's an answer in there somewhere, but that is basically
No, but I think the thing that comes through, and obviously through speaking to all of you, it's the passion. You have to feel that passion, that fire for a project, because I mean, as anyone in any kind of stage of filmmaking, things drop out, things fall out, the things change. It's a process, and if you don't have that sort of deep set fire, then I'm sure that could be sort of what would make it fall out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And obviously the boys steered the ship, and but there were new crew members coming on at various points.
Nice.
So I think that gave fresh energy when you had different animators, different DOPs, different people coming on to do different jobs, which meant they came with a freshness, with renewed the energy in the room. And but the standard set by the first team that worked on the film means it was so high that everyone had to kind of be like, wow, I'm working on something amazing, I've got to bring my A game. And and I think that is how people talk about it. Everyone that's been involved and been like, if they've come on a bit later in the process, they're like, well, it just was so amazing, I just had to do my absolute best to keep that standard up. So that's credit to like the first team, and obviously to Ben and Baz for setting that tone and making sure the production values were as high as they are.
Yeah. But Ben, for you, I can only imagine from a producer's point of view, the nightmare of having sort of those changing roles and those new people coming in. As excited as you are about it, that is logistically a nightmare.
Yeah, it actually, like, I thought, I mean, if we use like the animators and as an example, like we were really lucky to get Casey Salengad as our sort of first key animator on the project. He's won an Emmy for character animation before he came to us, but we always knew he could only stay 4 months because he was going to be starting a contract at Leica. He's an incredible animator. And so there was a time, you know, as we knew he was leaving, so we were looking for other animators straight away, but like we were really, really struggling. And then Casey, the last thing he shot before he left was the underwater scene has 3 shots. He shot the first shot and the third shot, but didn't have time to shoot the second. And I was like, how are we going to find someone that's going to like follow Casey and be able to like shoot this? And then it was actually a friend of Casey's, Alexei Batorin. He came along and just absolutely smashed it, and like you can't tell. And then we had Anna Pearson come as well, and Anna and Alexei were both then with us for about a year. Anna had to leave for a short period to go and work on something else, but then came back to us, and like that, the climax shot, Alexei and Anna were actually working in shifts, and animators don't often like to do that where they're working on the same shot and taking over from each other, but they did it and it's like flawless. So everyone just did such an amazing job. Yeah, and like our first DOP had to leave because of got a really long contract on a kids' TV show. But we always knew when we were making this, you know, like when we were having conversations with people, they were sort of open and honest, and we were open and honest, and they were like, you know, I'll like give this the time I can because I think it's an incredible project. But obviously freelancers, if they get like the opportunity for a really long project, then they're going to take that. And so yeah, then Kevin then joined as a DOP, and like he was absolutely incredible and was there at sort of the right time for there's a shot that sort of rotates around the boys, which was like really complicated lighting setup. So he was there for that, then left for a while, but then came back a few months later. So yeah, everyone, like Dean said, sort of everyone did bring new energy, new perspectives. And yeah, obviously it is a bit unusual to have sort of different DOPs, but our shoot was like 18 months long. So yeah, you kind of can't expect people to be there for that amount of time. And it just worked in the end. I think everyone who joined the team was like so passionate about the project and about wanting to make it as good as they could that yeah, it just worked and everyone did an amazing job.
Yeah. There is a lot more I could dig into, but I'm going to end because sort of we're talking to you about not only the film, but about being nominated for the BIFA Best Short. So I am going to quiz you all, put you on your toes, and I want to know what the best short is, either your favorite or the best that you've seen recently. And with all the festivals you guys have been to, I am excited to hear what you're going to say.
I have really loved Bury Your Gaze by Charlotte Cooper.
I love Bury Your Gaze.
And I think Charlotte is the person I've seen at most festivals, and we've become festival buddies. We've seen each other in LA, we've seen each other all over the UK, and yeah, that film is fantastic. And you know, with the Iris Prize, we're both part of that Best of British block, and that's streaming on Channel 4. So I keep telling people to check it out when they check out ours as well. So yeah, I love that film, and it deals with the tropes, you know, of gay people being killed or having tragic stories and trying to escape that trope. And it's really, really funny. So yeah, people will love that one if they check it out.
Excellent shout. Yeah, I was so chuffed. I saw it come in, they were submitted through director's notes the other day. I was like, I get to ask everything about it. Can't wait. Who's going next?
That is actually one of my favorite films that I have seen at like all the festivals I've been to as well. For the same reason, like I just laughed the whole way through.
Yeah.
And I think to like tackle such an important subject with so much comedy is just like really, really skilled and impressive. So yeah, I absolutely love that as well. And then in the animation space, a film that I've been wanting to see a long time and only just managed to see at Manchester Animation Festival was Brain Space, which is also stop motion animation. And yeah, it's also incredible animation, incredible storytelling, really sort of personal story again about like a very important subject. And it's just beautiful.
Nice. Okay, I haven't caught that one, but I'm getting so excited. People, I'm like writing them down. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to find it. Baz,
Okay.
what you got for us?
I've literally got a list of 20 in my head, but I'm going to do the same as Ben. I'm going to pick a live action, and I'm going to go for One Day This Kid, which won the Iris Prize this year.
Okay.
And we screened alongside it at Seattle, and it absolutely blew me away. So highly recommend that. I'm glad that Ben has mentioned Brain Space because that was on my list, so I don't have to, but it's an amazing short. I'm going to put two. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say two. My two are stop motion overreacting,
Yes.
which I saw recently and which obviously was longlisted for the BIFA. That's incredible. I've been wanting to see it for the longest time and finally got to see it at Manchester Animation Festival and I was blown away. The other short, which I saw a while ago and it's doing incredibly well, stop motion short, is called Playing God. It's an Italian production and it is technically absolutely incredible. So just purely from a stop motion kind of technical point of view, I just love what they did there, and aesthetically I love kind of everything that they kind of created with that film. So I'm being greedy, and that's 3 from me.
No, you're allowed. I'll take it. Well, guys, thank you so much. It's honestly, it's wonderful to speak to you. There are so many brilliant interviews out there, and I was really chuffed that I got to dig into a little bit of the world.
It was a pleasure talking to you. We love your enthusiasm, and thank you for this time and space with you.
No worries.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sarah.